Before the trenches, before the trenches, before the poison gas and the shell shock, before empires collapsed and a generation was lost, the fate of the world rested on a single wrong turn. This is the story of how a simple mistake, a moment of human error, plunged humanity into the Great War. It's June 28, 1914, Sarajevo. A beautiful summer day meant for ceremony and parades. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his wife Sophie are visiting the city. The air is tense. Serbia, their southern neighbor, is simmering with nationalist fervor, and many see the Archduke's visit as an act of oppression. Lurking in the crowd, scattered along the Archduke's officially published parade route, are 6 assassins. They belong to a radical group called the Black Hand, and they have one mission: to kill the heir. The morning begins. The motorcade, a line of open-topped cars, starts its procession. As it passes the first assassin, he throws a bomb, but he gets the timing wrong. The device bounces off the folded-back roof of the Archduke's car and explodes under the vehicle behind it, injuring several officers and civilians. The would-be killer swallows a cyanide pill and jumps into the nearby river. But the poison is old and only makes him vomit, and the river is just a few inches deep. He's quickly captured. The other assassins, hearing the explosion and seeing the chaos, lose their nerve and melt back into the crowd. The plot, it seems, has failed. Franz Ferdinand is shaken but unharmed. His first instinct is not to flee, but to show strength and compassion. He cancels the rest of the day's events, but before leaving the city, he insists on one thing: we must go to the hospital to visit the wounded. It's a noble gesture, a decision born from a sense of duty, but it's a decision that will seal his fate. This is where the first critical error is made. The plan has changed. The original route is no longer safe. The motorcade will now proceed directly to the hospital. But in the confusion and chaos, a crucial piece of information is missed. Someone forgets to tell the driver of the Archduke's car about the change of plans. So, the cars set off again. They travel down the main road, the Apelki. They approach the Latin Bridge, a key intersection in the city. The driver, following his original instructions, does what he was told to do that morning. He takes a right turn onto Franz Joseph Street. A senior official in the car immediately shouts, "What is this? This is the wrong way. We're supposed to go straight." The driver slams on the brakes. He begins to slowly, awkwardly, reverse the large, cumbersome vehicle. The engine stalls. For a few fateful seconds, the car carrying the heir to the empire is a sitting duck, stationary on a crowded city street. Now, let's rewind a few minutes. Remember those other assassins. One of them, a 19-year-old nationalist named Gavrilo Princip, believes his chance is gone. The plot has failed. Disappointed and dejected, he walks away from his position and decides to get something to eat. He stops at a delicatessen, Schiller's Cafe, right on the corner of Franz Joseph Street. He's standing on the sidewalk, perhaps eating a sandwich, his dream of a free Serbia seemingly shattered. And then, he looks up. In a moment of pure, unbelievable chance, the Archduke's car has stalled right in front of him, less than 5 feet away. The one man he came to kill, the symbol of the empire he despises, is delivered to him by a simple mistake. Princip doesn't hesitate. He steps forward, draws his pistol, and fires 2 shots. The first hits Sophie in the abdomen, the second strikes Franz Ferdinand in the neck. His last words, spoken to his dying wife, are reportedly, "Sophie, Sophie, don't die, live for our children." But it's too late. Within minutes, both are dead. In the space of 10 seconds, history has been irrevocably altered. A wrong turn, that's all it was. An error any driver could make. But the consequences of this particular mistake were catastrophic. News of the assassination spreads like wildfire. Austria-Hungary, enraged, issues a series of ultimatums to Serbia, blaming them for the attack. They see this as the perfect excuse to crush their troublesome neighbor once and for all. This is where the dominoes begin to fall. Russia, seeing itself as the protector of the Slavic peoples, declares its support for Serbia. Germany, bound by alliance to Austria-Hungary, gives them a blank check, a promise of unconditional support. France, allied with Russia, begins to mobilize. Great Britain, alarmed by Germany's aggression and its invasion of neutral Belgium, is drawn into the fray. One by one, the great powers of Europe, tangled in a web of alliances, pride, and military timetables, march headlong into war. There was no stopping it. It was like a machine had been turned on, fueled by decades of suspicion and rivalry. The diplomacy failed. Reason was abandoned. Within 5 weeks of that wrong turn in Sarajevo, the continent was at war. The conflict that followed was unlike anything the world had ever seen. The First World War. It lasted for years and claimed more than 20 million live soldiers and civilians. It saw the fall of 4 great empires: the Austro-Hungarian, the Ottoman, the Russian, and the German. It redrew the map of Europe and the Middle East, creating new countries and new conflicts. And it sowed the seeds of resentment and instability that would lead, just 20 years later, to an even more devastating war. All of it, arguably, can be traced back to that single moment. To a driver who wasn't informed of a change of plans, to a young assassin who happened to be in the right place at the right time. to the sheer, terrifying fragility of history. The Great War wasn't started by a grand strategy or a single act of evil intent. It was ignited by a mistake, a coincidence, and a series of human reactions. It's a chilling reminder that the largest events in history often hinge on the smallest, most ordinary moments. It shows us that history isn't just written by great leaders and generals, but by everyday people, making flawed choices, completely unaware that they are standing on the precipice of change. The world we live in today is still shaped by the echoes of that single wrong turn. Thanks for watching. If you found this piece of history as fascinating as I do, please like this video and subscribe for more stories that show how the past shapes our present. See you next time.